Good Wednesday evening, listeners, and welcome to Conversations of a Sister here on YouTube. Today is Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022. We are literally, 6 or 7 days away from the midterm elections. And I know, like me, a lot of you are tired of this midterm madness because it's just crazy what's going on with these midterm elections. I know we're tired of the ads. I know we're tired of the attacks. I know we're just tired of the rhetoric that comes with, you know, the midterms elections. But it's expected, it happens, and here we are. So, what's the highlight this week? Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker, I tell you, I have absolutely no words. Herschel Walker is not being thrown, as my mom said, under the bus. He's being thrown under the porch because women are coming out of the woodwork talking about how he paid for their abortions. Now, I know some of you think, what is the point of this? The point is that he has taken a stance along with a lot of other Republicans against abortion. So these women are coming out now because they want, I guess, voters to know basically that he's a hypocrite. And it's funny because the last accuser that came out with her story, she actually wanted to prove it to the point that she has shown pictures of him asleep in her bed. So, a lot of men were like, wow, she really went, to the extreme to prove her point. But she wanted to prove that, he had been with her, especially since he's been in deep denial about having known these women or being with these women or having written these women letters. So they are basically dragging Herschel Walker through the mud. But, aside from that, me personally, I think he's an embarrassment. I think he is an embarrassment to his party, but because they're using him to go up against Raphael Warnock, uh, it works. So it doesn't matter what he looks like. It doesn't matter how he speaks. All that matters to the party is that he's going to agree with the base. And the base is this election rhetoric that Joe Biden isn't the legitimate president. There is election fraud throughout these states. He's down with the rhetoric. So if he's down with the rhetoric, this is what a lot of Republicans are backing. So it doesn't matter how he looks, it doesn't matter how he speaks, it doesn't matter what the scandal is, he's being backed. And we have Raphael Warnock, who's only served one term in Georgia, who's up again for reelection. Now, I don't know what he's done because I don't live in the state of Georgia. But from what I'm being told is that he is legitimate and has done a work in Georgia that should be continued. So that race is tight and we'll see how it turns out. But in the meantime, we have the election attacks, different things that are coming out about different candidates. Now, let me remain in Georgia, if I may, because now we have Stacey Abrams, who is running against incumbent governor Brian Kemp. Now, Stacey had Oprah. She came out and campaigned for her over the weekend, as well as former President Barack Obama. And, in my opinion, I quite frankly, I don't think it matters. I think that Stacey is going to lose. I think she's going to lose simply because Georgia is not going to elect a black governor. That's not going to happen. I don't believe that that's in the cards. So that's why I believe that Stacey just don't have a chance. And I know she's campaigned for a long time. I know that, running for governor and getting people registered to vote has been her mantra for the last past 3 to 4 years. And here we are again. And the polls, according to the polls, she's trailing behind Brian Kemp. Now, because I'm not in the state of Georgia, I'm not privy to those ads. I don't know what is being said about her in its totality. However, I am seeing little bits of clips about, ads that Brian Kemp, I think, have out against her. But, nevertheless, according to the polls, she's she's trailing behind. And I mean, it's kind of it's kind of crazy because people feel like she's worked so hard, but it doesn't matter. I think that Brian Kemp has a record, and it's a record that most voters want to remain with. And in the meantime, you know, uh, in the state of New York, we have Governor Kathy Hochul up against, I think it's Lee Zeldin. I think that's his name. I know his last name is Zeldin. And he seemed to be a pretty good candidate, a pretty strong candidate, I might add, against Kathy Hochul. He's bringing up some very great points, like this bail reform and people being out on bail after committing some of the worst crimes. He's talking about crime-ridden New York, and right now New York is riddled with crime. And quite frankly, I'm trying to figure out where's the mayor. I haven't seen him lately. In the beginning of the year or in the beginning of his term, he started out with so much fire, so much spunk. And now he seems to be dwindling down into reality. So I'm like, what is being done, in the city of New York? And I think that if Lee Zeldin won, it would kind of shake things up because you would have a Democratic mayor up against a Republican governor. Not really up against, but they would have to work together, come together for a resolve. And I just don't think a lot of that is happening now. So Lee Zeldin seems to be a strong candidate. He's fighting hard in those ads against Kathy Hochul. I think that he's also a strong candidate, as I stated. So we'll see what happens in that race. But I think that at the end of the day, it comes down to the rhetoric. I think that the rhetoric can cause harm and can be dangerous because I think in the state of Georgia or some state, I don't know if it's Michigan, I forgot where I read it, but they actually have armed militants that are outside guarding people who are standing online to vote. And this might be in the state of Georgia. I know I heard it. And I think that the election officials there, they went to court and they wanted, a judge to rule that this was like intimidating voters. They wanted it to stop because they felt like, voters felt intimidated. So I think the judge came back with they have to stand a certain amount of feet away, or I don't remember, how it is, but I think that that's not working because from what I'm hearing, you know, voters are coming out in droves in the state of Georgia. They are not allowing that to deter them casting, their vote. And here I am in the state of New Jersey, and I couldn't tell you who was running. I see no ads in my state whatsoever. Let me take that back. I think I am seeing something about DeGroot, or DeGro, or DeGroot, whatever. I just know that I'm tired of getting ads and pamphlets in the mail about DeGroot. I don't know DeGroot. I don't know what his stance is, so I can't really say that I will vote for him. So, as far as everyone else and everything else, that is what I'm seeing, and this is what I'm hearing. And I will just be glad when these elections are over. But, like everyone else, I'm sure we all heard last weekend about how Nancy Pelosi's husband was attacked. Somebody broke into her home at 2 a.m. and this guy was beating her husband with a hammer. Now, there's all kinds of rumors that I heard, all kinds of ads, all kinds of things that I'm reading. And, you know, her haters, was trying to spin it like this was her husband's gay lover. I think that's absurd. I really do. I think that's kind of crazy. It just doesn't make sense to me. So his gay lover would break into her home and attack him with a hammer. And I think he was sleeping and he woke him up and he kept yelling, "Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy?" And it was a liken to the January 6th attack on the Capitol. So there are so many questions with this incident. Number one, Nancy Pelosi is Speaker of the House. Uh, Nancy Pelosi, I think, is hated by a lot of people. So I'm trying to figure out one, how come some type of alarm system was not on the home that should have gone off the minute he broke glass? I mean, here I am, I'm in a condo and I have it alarmed like Fort Knox. And here it is, she's Speaker of the House. Everyone knows who she is. And an armed attacker with a gun was able to break into her what? $6.5 million mansion in San Francisco. How was he even able to walk up? Why was her home even accessible? I think this is why people are saying that it was her husband's gay lover, because it doesn't make sense. You would think that because she was the Speaker of the House and because, on January 6th, the people that took over the Capitol was calling her name and they were out to get her, you would think that she would have security up the wazoo. So I think this is why people think that this was her gay lover that broke into the house. Because how come an alarm didn't go off? How come there was no alarm system? How come he was able to break the glass, get in, and make it up to the bedroom? How did he even know where the bedrooms were? So he had to be fumbling around the mansion for quite some time, because I'm guessing that there's several rooms there before he found his bedroom and was able to beat him with a hammer. It just doesn't make sense. What doesn't make sense is that the house wasn't alarmed. What doesn't make sense is that her 82-year-old husband had to crawl into the bathroom to make a 911 call. And then when the peppy guy broke into the bathroom to continue to beat him, 911 was on the phone and they overheard everything. And that's how police was dispatched so quickly. But it should have never gone as far as it went. The man should have never had access to her house like that. I don't think that he should have just been able to break glass and walk in without some type of alarm system being triggered. Now, I did read in the paper that the Capitol Police in Washington, D.C. had cameras on her home. They didn't say that it was an alarm system. They said that they were cameras. And that at the time of the attack or at the time of the break-in, they were not looking at the cameras. So when I first read it, I was like, okay, she's in San Francisco, California. They're in Washington, D.C. If somebody is going to break into her home, how are they going to help? Because all they're going to do is get on the phone and call the San Francisco Police Department and say somebody's breaking in Nancy Pelosi's home. I mean, really? By that time, an alarm system could have gone off that triggered the California Police Department. It just doesn't make sense. And I guess because it doesn't make sense, this is why people are saying that it was her husband's gay lover, that it had to be her husband's gay lover because he had access to the property. And when you think about it, it's like, yeah, he had access to the property because he was able to get into the home, go upstairs, wake him up by beating him with a hammer. He knew where the bedroom was. It's just so many things that just doesn't make sense. It should have never happened. And then when they arrested the man, He said that he was looking for Nancy Pelosi. And this is the real kicker. He was going to zip tie her up, I guess her and her husband, and he was going to break her kneecaps. That's what he said. He said he wanted to break her kneecaps. And the reason why he wanted to break her kneecaps is because he wanted her to have to be wheeled into Congress so that all of Congress can see that her kneecaps were broken and that she was in a wheelchair. And the message that he wanted to send was that this is this is the result of consequences. So when you hear that, you're like, really? Let me tell you something. A lot of those speakers are up in age. A lot of them are elderly. Uh, Lindsey Graham, McCarthy, um, Nancy Pelosi, uh, a lot of them are elderly. A lot of the January 6th committee, a lot of those people are elderly. So when you think about others or spectators trying to bring them harm, it's a bit disturbing because they're elderly. And you don't understand it unless you have elderly people who are near and dear to you. Because all you got to do is just put them in the same situation. Would you want somebody to break in on your elderly mother or grandmother or elderly aunt or uncle to do them harm or to cause them harm? You wouldn't want that. And I think what happened was horrible, regardless to how one feels about Nancy Pelosi. Her husband is 82 years young, and he was beaten with a hammer. He had brain injury. That's pretty serious for an 82-year-old man. And I am impressed that he's still alive and recovering. He's on the mend because this man could have killed him. And that's something that you wouldn't want to wish on anyone or you wouldn't want for anyone. But to say that he wanted to bust her kneecaps, I I couldn't believe it. And to be honest with you, when I first heard it, I kind of chuckled because I was like, seriously? This is a this is an elderly woman and you want to break her kneecaps? We've all seen Nancy walk. She's barely walking and maintaining on her heels. I give her credit because she does, regardless to, her age. But to want to harm her is a whole nother set of rules. I think that elderly people are off limits. And I don't care what your political affiliations are. You should not want to harm anyone who can be defenseless. That's why I was shocked when they showed the documentary with her and she said she wanted to punch President Trump in the face. And when I heard that, I was like, really, Nancy? Can you even form a fist? Like, seriously? I think that regardless to what one's political divide is, there's never room for violence. I just don't think that violence is key. Now, don't get me wrong, you know, Trump incited the mob that came after her on January 6th. I mean, I get it, but there are so many ways, so many other ways to spin that. And of course, she didn't punch him in the face, regardless to, the fact that she may have wanted to. But it came out in the documentary that she did. And I didn't think that was cool. But he sent a mob after them. He sent a mob after all of them. And he also sent a mob after Pence. And with all of that, Pence still maintained his composure. I was shocked that he even spoke about it recently because to this day, he's maintained his decorum, not only as former vice president, but as a Christian man that he so is. He's always maintained his decorum. He has a special kind of class, in my opinion. So today's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 6 more days, and the midterms will be over. And then we all will be able to sigh a big sigh of relief. And I don't care if the Republicans take the Senate. I don't care if the Republicans take Congress. I just want the midterms to be over. And yes, the number one thing on everybody's mind for these midterm elections, for this midterm election, is inflation and the gas prices, because those are the two things that has skyrocketed under the Biden administration. So yeah, I'm guessing that voters are going to have their say, and this is it. Abortion, I don't know. I don't know, how much that's going to play a role, because at the end of the day, people want food on their table and they want to be able to go where they need to go without paying an arm and a leg for gas. So we shall see how this election rolls over. But in the meantime, like you, the ads are ridiculous. And I just can't wait until it's all over. Until next week, don't forget to rock the votes. Whether you're Democrat, Republican, or Independent, don't forget to exercise your right to vote. I thank you for listening in. Until next week, bye bye.